question I have for you is Tennessee's top juniors that will head into this class. So let's start with number 5 as camp opens on Wednesday officially. Want to get your thoughts as well on the message board. So certainly check it out. What do you got, sir?
All right, so a guy who just missed that I actually think we'll see some. We just talked about tight ends, but he didn't make this list. Is a guy named Charlie Browder. I actually think Hyper will use him as a blocking tight end some this year, but I don't. He didn't make my top 5. Right at number 5, I was down to it was a couple of defensive linemen, an edge rusher, and an interior lineman between Joshua Josephs and Jackson Moy, and I went with Joshua Josephs. And the reason I went with Joshua Josephs is I think he's going to be the starting defensive end on one side, whereas I think Jackson Moy is going to be a role player on the interior.
Who starts above Jackson Moy?
Amari Thomas and Elijah Simmons.
Jackson Moy may or may not start, but I'm glad Smoky Mountain Red got his shirt. Good. They've been a little getting at the Tennessee versus NCAA shirt. By the way, the gentleman earlier who gave us the fantastic gift, we appreciate that. If you join Hooker's Corner, you automatically get a T-shirt as a first-time member. Plus, you get an opportunity to win this autographed helmet by John Henderson, which is pretty awesome. I think you're underplaying Jackson Moy. And that's not me guessing. That's what I've been told. I've been told he's the transfer to watch.
Okay, so we know Amari's starting because they brought him to SEC Media Days. You don't bring a guy twice to SEC Media Days without expecting him to start.
That's a given.
And
lock it down.
Yes. So you think Elijah Simmons is a generational talent, the likes of which we've never seen. How does Jackson Moy beat either of them out if Elijah Simmons is healthy? Not to mention Omar Norman Lott.
There comes a time, and I hope I'm wrong, that I say to myself, this guy's injury prone. For whatever reason, it's the genetics. And I've got to use that history, Caleb, when I factor in who I'm projecting ahead. So I think Simmons could be a first-round pick if he's 100% healthy this year. First-round NFL pick. I don't think Jackson Moy will ever be that. But I think Jackson Moy is more likely to be 100% throughout the season.
Okay, that's fair. So would you have Jackson Moy over Joshua Josephs? Because Joshua Josephs, I think, is starting on the defensive end on one side.
So far, out of the guys you mentioned, I have Jackson Moy above your guys.
Okay, so you have Jackson Moy ahead of Joshua Josephs.
Yes, I have him ahead of Joseph. So where are we? Number 4?
So now let's move to number 4. Number 4, and as much as I've trashed him, Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson's a top 5 junior on this team.
Finally getting some love for Dylan Sampson. This one's tough for me to argue with because I'm going to compare them all to Jackson Moy based off what I've heard. Dylan Sampson is more important than Jackson Moy given the depth, the defensive tackle position. But I'm telling you, he's going to be really good. You heard it here first on Off the Hook Sports. All right, who's next?
I got to laugh real quick when you talked about maybe Sampson whiffed on a block because of a Nico adjustment. That's like when Fulmer and Chambers were like, we weren't prepared for the quarterback draw when we faced LSU in the 2001 SEC title game. What do you have to prepare for with the quarterback draw? You're the 2 best defensive tackles in history. Just say tackle the quarterback when he runs.
Oh, I think it's a little bit more difficult than that. But anyway, the next best junior is.
Okay, so number 3 is Squirrel White. Squirrel White's going to be the starter in the slot, and he is going to. They thought he'd be Jalen Hyatt last year. I think he could be that this year. And by the way, one of the underrated things about Squirrel White, we always talk about speed, Dave. He's got hands. That dude can catch.
I'm struggling with Squirrel White. I think this is a big offseason for him, a big camp, so that he doesn't get lost in the shuffle. Because the last thing you want to do is fall behind a Mike Matthews. I think
That's
Dante.
Positions.
I'm sorry?
Different positions. Mike Matthews is a wideout. Squirrel is in the slot. There's no competition for Squirrel in the slot.
No. I'm just saying in general, the last thing you want to do. Yeah, there's competition in the slot. They could still use Dante Thornton there. They could use Brazel there. I got a lot of names that I could throw at you. But I heard so many great things about Squirrel White, but he didn't have the impact last year. Was that his fault or was that the quarterback's fault? That's what we're going to find out. You just don't want to fall behind all of those guys. Not the same position as far as the receiver position, but I'm telling you, they would find a way. If they thought that Dante Thornton was suddenly the impact player he was supposed to be last year, they would find a way to get him on the field over Squirrel White if they thought he was significantly better.
I think Squirrel White should, and this is funny because he's African-American, but I think he should take a page out of Phil's playbook in Modern Family, if you guys ever watched that show, and make shirts that say, if you ain't white, you ain't right. Have y'all ever seen that episode?
No, but I will tell you, one time we were trying to think of a name for Fred White's segment, and it ended up being called Football Friday with Fred. And I said, how about the white way? And he goes, no.
That would throw everybody up with Fred on the show.
That was an immediate no.
Oh my gosh.
I'll check on Squirrel's weight meet and David. I'll work on that. And
he's just not down with White. That's why he doesn't believe in Squirrel White. He's just not down with White.
All right, what else you got?
Number 2. Now, I just talked about Jalen McMurray, and I think he's going to be in the rotation. But number 2, I'm very high on Jacoby Thomas, the MTSU transfer. I think he's the best of the 3 transfers they got. Jamal McCoy in the secondary. Jamal McCoy, Jacoby Thomas, and Jalen McMurray. I think Jacoby Thomas is your McAllen Castles, comes from a smaller school, wants a chance to show himself, and is going to be a superstar in the secondary this year. I think Jacoby Thomas at free safety is going to be a massive upgrade over Wesley Walker, who left. Obviously, Andre Turrentine can't work out at safety. And they still have Jordan Thomas and Christian Harrison for depth, but I think Jacoby Thomas is going to be I think he might be an all-SEC safety.
You know, I'm going to agree with that, and I'm going to give you credit because I was worried the road we're going down because I like Moya so much, but so far, I've only got Moya as more of an impact than one of your guys, which means we're pretty much on the same page. So who's up next?
And number 1 is the most obvious number 1 in the history of number 1s. I'm not really going to pierce anybody's brains with this one.
James Pierce.
James Pierce Jr. James Pierce Jr. is number 1. Are you really going to disagree with me on that, Dave? Are you going to be like, well, I don't know?
No, I think we could have the discussion, is James Pierce the most valuable player on the team? I'm not saying he's not, but we could have the discussion. I could at least make the debate and make a pretty strong debate. Would you agree with that?
You could, in terms of, James Pierce is a rare talent, a rare freak talent. And it's not because edge rusher is not as valuable, but that is part of it. It's just there's depth behind him, but it is also edge rusher is not as valuable. I mean, Steve Spurrier's best team in South Carolina that went 11-2 was in the top 5, had Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney wasn't the most valuable player on that team. Remember those South Carolina teams that were really good under Spurrier? Dave, would you even consider Clowney the most important player on any of those teams?
Well, yes, kinda. I mean, I really think they made. I think an elite defensive end pass rusher can take you from a good defense to a very good defense. So maybe let's do that on Monday.
You have to be good on the other side, though. If you're not good on the other side, you can totally neutralize an elite pass rusher.
You can be slightly average on the other side.